And so let me, first of all, introduce our special guests that have joined us today. First, on the very far end, is Lori George Billingsley. And Lori is Vice President of Community Relations for Coca-Cola Refreshments. Lori, for the last 25 years, has been serving in public relations, has experience there, along with developing and implementing breakthrough programs that meet organizational goals, target audience needs, and produce results. Currently, she's Vice President of Community Relations and works mostly in North America, working together with community entities to give back to the community. And Lori is also an ordained minister. She and her husband moved here back in 2002 to plant a church. And so she's going to have some great insight when it comes to marketplace ministry to share with us today. Next to her is Hannah Lee, and Hannah is the owner of a business, owner, administrator of Homewell Senior Healthcare of North Atlanta. And Homewell Senior Healthcare provides personalized in-home care programs such as companion and personal care services for seniors so that they can remain in the comfort of their home indefinitely. And her passion for people, particularly those who are aging, and her background in nursing, and just her faithfulness in building relationships and walking with people through the senior stages of life prepared her well to provide the kind of care that she does now in a compassionate sort of a way. And her approach is very, very holistic while she's taking care of families and their health care needs of their aging adults. She also ministers to them emotionally, relationally, and spiritually as well. And I'm looking forward to hear about how she does that and provides ministry in her circles of influence. Beside Hannah is Doug Davidson. Doug is the president and CEO of New South Construction. He founded the organization in 1990, and for the past 22 years under his leadership, New South Construction has grown into one of Georgia's most respected construction firms. They do a vast array of projects with some organizations that you would well recognize, like Coca-Cola and like Delta and many, many others. Doug serves on more boards than I can even begin to elaborate on, but he has a real heart for ministry and using all of those connections and those relationships to introduce people to Christ. He does actually serve on the Big Brother, Big Sister board, Southern Polytechnic State University. He's been a part of LifeWork leadership across the years, and also the Greater Atlanta Economic Alliance and Metro Bank board. But trust me when I tell you, that's just a sliver of the boards that he serves on. Doug, we're glad you're here today. And beside him is a friend, Tim Fitzgerald. And Tim, for 28 years, has had experience in executive sales, sales management, and direct sales experience in the enterprise software market. He's currently with ServiceMax as a strategic account manager. And Tim is a member of North Point, has been for the last 8 years or so, and has also involved in a number of ministries, high-tech ministries that many of you would be familiar with, and Todd Sorensen. We saw Todd earlier. Todd, glad you're here with us today. As well as a very unique ministry for fathers and sons called Christ in the Rockies. And I'm excited about that particular program because it's sort of a rite of passage for boys, a chance to receive their father's blessing and enter into adulthood with a very Christ-centered focus. And so if you know of anyone who has a son that would benefit from being a part of a program like that, I know Tim would be more than happy to talk with you about that later. He's also involved in integrated community ministries in Appalachian areas of Kentucky. So that's our panel today, and looking forward to hearing from them and gleaning from their wealth of experience to be encouraged in our walk, our faith walk in the marketplace. I'm Randy Ross. I have an organization called Enthusiasm, Inc., and in a nutshell, we help organizations craft remarkable cultures. That's what we do. Robert Stevens, the founder of Geek Squad, once said that advertising is the tax you pay for being unremarkable. We help companies be remarkable. But today, what we want to talk about is you being remarkable as a minister. And all of us are ministers in the marketplace. We are blessed. Lori is an ordained minister. I have a background in ministry, but all of us, by God's directive, are ministers wherever we go. And so today we want to encourage you to consider the possibility of letting God use you on a larger level as you move and work in the marketplace, because that's where the next great wave of revival is going to take place. We spend so much time there, we interact with so many people and touch so many lives that there's a vast opportunity for us. And you know that. But today, specifically, we want to ask this team, this panel, how they do that personally. And so, Doug, I'm going to start with you. Why don't you just define for us, what does marketplace ministry look like for you?
That's the way it always goes down. They pick on the short guy. But anyway, that question, not in that direct way, is something I found myself asking myself 12 years ago. As I felt a calling to do more, to be more of a light. And in my mind, I see marketplace ministry being just what we do and everything we do every day, our interaction with people, just showing a little bit of light that we can of Jesus through our actions, through the way we handle ourselves, showing the fruits of the Spirit that we as Christians possess and are called to show. And just making people wonder, why does he care about me, or why is he different? Which eventually develops into an opportunity to share the great news of God's grace and forgiveness, which we need every day, and just allowing to share the good news and hopefully bring someone to know Christ. And I always like to say, Jesus spent his first 30 years in the marketplace, and as a matter of fact, he was in construction. So I felt like, what a better place for me to share my faith. And, and as well, and I didn't, I've borrowed these facts, but, all the disciples were in the marketplace. Most of the miracles performed, most of the parables told by Jesus were in the marketplace. So what a great example of how we can do. And I decided, as I mentioned 12 years ago, I didn't have to become a youth pastor or a minister to minister to people. And that's what I call workplace ministry.
That's good. Tim, give us some practical ways that you are a minister in the marketplace.
Well, I think to me it's all about starting with a relationship. And if you show some interest in someone's life and let them know that you're a Christian, they will come back to you at certain times when they have a struggle, when they have something that they want to talk about, when they are faced with a friend who's sick or a family member who's sick and they don't know what to do. That's when I think that begins to happen. And for me, there was one person that I worked with in a former job. He was struggling with where did he want to go with his career. He wasn't happy with where he was working with our company. And through the course of several conversations, we started talking about North Point. And I encouraged him to go to North Point. He went a couple times, and then I would just go by his office and talk to him. Hey, what'd you think about that sermon last week? And then eventually he started having some interest. So I gave him the book of How to Be a Carpenter. And talking about construction again. And then he showed some real interest in that. And then the next step was, well, there's a program within High Tech Ministries that is called the Ambassador Program. And it's really about how to live your life in faith. And the Ambassador Program for me had a big impact. So he was a executive in our company at the time, and he thought it would be something of interest. But it took a year for me to work through with him and get him interested in the idea of taking that step. So the thing that was encouraging to me was it's not an event that going through that process. It is a process, and it took countless number of conversations, invitations, and then eventually this person came to Christ. And that was very enthusiastic opportunity for us to share together. And to this day, he's very active in church and within High Tech Ministries.
That's great. Doug, you laid a fantastic foundation for us, to open up this discussion on what it means to be salt and light in the marketplace. And Tim, I appreciate you talking about the fact that there are a myriad of other resources out there that we can draw from. Not only just the opportunity to invite someone to maybe attend church with us, but books that are available, other ministry opportunities. We're very blessed here in Atlanta. You're not struggling out there solo. Opportunities like this to be encouraged and to be able to plug people into. But the key is building relationships and being available. And as far as being available, Hannah, your business opportunity affords you the chance to touch people's lives at a very vulnerable, tender point. How do you leverage that opportunity where God's placed you to minister to people?
Thank you, Randy. Well, many times I work with individuals who have health issues and sometimes urgency of their health issues and well-beings, either whether it's them or their loved ones, their family members or parents. So many times I find them very vulnerable, very nervous, agitated, and angry with the circumstances that they are in. So it's kind of perfect opportunity for me to kick in and look for an opportunity to bridge with them. So very similar to Tim's experience, what I do is I go above and beyond and try to engage with them, get to know them, and do as much as I can, serving them in any way I can, and give if I can afford to, whether it's time or material or resource information. And earning their trust really eventually gets me to a point where I can invite them to Jesus Christ. And by doing that, I can enlighten the most important value that people can yet to see and learn, which that is establishing relationship with Jesus Christ and our living God and the involvement in their lives. So, well, because I do go out to facilities and buildings that has different code of ethics and different policies and procedures in terms of discussing religion and praying together and things like that. So I sometimes find myself less friendly environment, less acceptable, receptive environment in terms of discussing about faith and Jesus Christ. But I just pray for this is one of the panel questions. I'm jumping ahead of you, sorry, Randy. But sometimes I just have to pray, seeking God's advice and guidance and the perfect timing. I can't rush myself. And God opened doors for me. Just to share with you one experience where I was able to lead a prayer of salvation with a Jewish woman before she passed away. And one of my clients that I work with, she passed away last summer. I met her when she was fully developed stage of Alzheimer's. So she did not have a conscience, awareness to understand and comprehend, even if I share about Jesus. Eventually, I was told by hospice that she has maybe 2 days, 48 hours to 36 hours left. And I just dropped everything. That afternoon from my office, I prayed to God for God to grant even just for 5 minutes or less than 5 minutes for me to be able to talk about Jesus, for her to understand and comprehend the message and the meaning of it. And she was located in a nursing home at that time, and of course, hospice nurse was in the room with her. I kindly excused myself for nurse to give us some privacy moments. And I prayed with that particular client. She was unconscious at that time. She did not acknowledge, didn't understand what was going on, period. But I whispered into her ears for her to choose Jesus when she runs into a road of fork, because Jesus died for her sin and my sins. And I prayed salvational prayer with her. And I want to believe and trust. She trembled for about 3 to 4 seconds right after immediately I finished my prayer. And I want to trust that that was a sign that God granted my prayer, and that lady is in heaven now. Another experience that I can never forget is actually the 1st of January 2012. One of my clients was dying. He was in ICU room. And over the period of service that we provided, I had a really good relationship with him because he was one of my prospects on my prayers list. And I knew that he was a Christian at one point because he shared with me that he attended church with his family, and he even showed me the Bible that his mother had given him. But, he got distracted over the years of his life. And I wanted to just wrap it up real nice while he's still on earth physically. So, and his wife is not really receptive in terms of listening to the good news. So my employee who was working at home of my client at the time, we kind of coordinated real well that I'd be there before the wife arrives in the ICU room. So I got there real early. I still made it to my 11 o'clock service that morning. So I got there and I really prayed. My family members, everybody prayed for me, and my small group members prayed for me so that I have a minimum interruption, because ICU, they're bombarded with nurses and doctors, and I couldn't imagine having that 30-minute time to talk to him sincerely and pray together. God really opened the door for that opportunity. I was interrupted only one time over 45-minute period, and he prayed with me. He was so weak and fatigued, but he was able to follow after what I said and completed the prayer of salvation. And guess what? He's still living today. He's still living today. And I spoke to him around Christmas time, and over the phone, I spoke to boldly to that client that it is you who would have to present the goodness to your wife, because I can only do so much.
But Christmas took on a whole new meaning for him, right? It's interesting because, when you pray and ask God to provide an opportunity, and you look expectantly and you're willing to respond, it's amazing what God will provide in terms of divine appointments. And I know you've experienced that over and over again. Let me shift the conversation, Lori, to you. I have a question, because Hannah made a good point. She said sometimes she moves into environments that may not be as open as others. And in a minute, I'm going to come back to Doug. Doug, I want you to be thinking about this one, okay? You're the owner of your own company. You can pretty much do what maybe you ever darn want to do, right? To a certain degree.
Unless Coca-Cola tells you.
Unless Coca-Cola tells you. But you do also have to work within the context of other clients. But because you started your own business, you do have a lot more latitude and freedom. But if you're working at a large multinational company, or a company that may not be open to faith-based kinds of issues, and they're guarded and protected, how have you learned how to navigate, negotiate that world to be effective?
Sure. Well, for me, I really feel like I'm on assignment at Coca-Cola. When I was called into the ministry, the Lord really put on my heart to take the church outside of its four walls. And so I really do feel like I'm a marketplace minister, and God definitely opened the door for me to be able to work at Coke. I didn't have any contacts there. My husband and I were moving here 11 years ago now, to start a church. And I said, well, if we're going to move to Atlanta, then I'm going to work at Coke. And 2 weeks later, God opened the door for 3 positions to come my way. I applied for all 3. The HR person that received my information said that she really felt like I was better positioned for another opportunity they had that they were creating. And so they put me in a created position, and I was hired like 6 weeks later. So the good news about that was that Coke also moved us, because we were going to move ourselves. So that was a double blessing. But I really feel like God planted me there. And so I look at that as my mission field. And I'm very open with people that I'm a Christian. I make a point of always being positive. I'm kind of like the chief enthusiasm officer within my space. So I'm always kind of smiling and upbeat. And so that has really been the best bridge, I would have to say, in having people come and say, why are you always so happy? What is going on? You know, why are you always so upbeat? That has really probably been the number one way that has opened the door from security guards to senior vice presidents to asking me, you know, why are you always so happy? I will say I always look for opportunities to be able to share the gospel. It could be as simple as someone asking me, you know, or telling me about a hardship they're going through, and letting them know that I'll pray for them. The other day, one of my coworkers called and said that she needed a ride to work, so I went by and picked her up. I happened to be running late that day, so I didn't have a chance to really do my quiet time before leaving for work, so I threw my devotional in the car. And as soon as she walked in the car, I was like, okay, we have to have devotions. You have to read the devotion while I'm driving, and then we have to talk about it. And so she was like, oh, okay. What do I do? What page do I go to? So always looking for ways to be able to share the gospel. And I think, you know, we're in a situation where a lot of people are searching. And so if we have answers that can help kind of provide guidance for them and things that they're dealing with in their everyday personal lives, since we spend so much time together at work, that people remember that and come back to you and ask you, you know, can you pray for me? Or, you know, I remember you saying something about a situation you were in, or you said some part of a scripture once, and my office is a Holy Ghost booby trap. So if you come in my office, like, all bets are off. So people who've been to my office know, like, okay, you know, I know where Lori kind of stands. So it's just interesting as you just kind of walk out every day and just be open, as some of the other panelists have said, to God, to just give you an opportunity. He will do it if we listen and we have the courage to follow through.
That's great. Thanks. So, fantastic strategy. My takeaway from that is carpool, lock the door, force them to read the Bible, right? So that's a good. Holy Ghost booby trap. I got to remember that one. I like that. So let me kind of shift the conversation. This will be for all of you. I want you all to have the opportunity to respond, so I wanted to leave adequate time for this question. And Doug, I'll let you start, and then we'll come to Tim, and then move over to Hannah and back to Lori. But Doug, you own your own company. You started that. Obviously, you're a man of faith, and you gave your company to God a long, long time ago and asked Him to use you. You do have some liberty and freedom because you started the organization, but you're limited at times by, you know, what other organizations may impose upon you. But what are the greatest lessons that you've learned in the marketplace as you've attempted to share your faith? Just maybe some things that, you know, you've learned through your personal experience, words of encouragement that you provide for the audience. What are some of the greatest lessons you've learned?
Well, to kind of preface that with a quick story, 12 years ago, a number of years I mentioned earlier, you know, I was struggling with, you know, how could I start making more of a difference? And, you know, it came to me through a discipleship group I was in that I was going to start a Bible study in my office. And yeah, we're a private company, but I am a servant leader just by nature. So I'm respectful of everyone, but I got a small core group, and we launched our Bible study, and I was sending out emails. And first lesson I learned is, boy, once you decide you're going to do the right thing and stand up for God, you better buckle your chin strap, as a football term, and get ready, because Satan is going to attack you, and he's going to put up every roadblock in front of you that you can imagine. So I was put in situations with even one of my partners or two of my partners and several other people that, you know, confronted me. And I was put in a situation where I could have reacted the wrong way. Yeah, we're a private company, and I could have, you know, done the boss thing, but I don't think that's what God would have me react in that situation. So I didn't react immediately to them. I prayed a lot of times. One situation, I ended up being in the same car with one of the guys going to a golf tournament an hour away. I didn't use the first hour driving down talking about our exchange the week before about our Bible study at work, but I did on the way back, and it was a great opportunity. And that individual to this day, he does what he does now. He won't come into our Bible study on Monday mornings, but hey, how about praying for this person or praying for that person? And so I guess kind of leads to one piece of advice that just don't get discouraged. We have to keep in mind we're a vehicle that God uses to bring news to people and the good news. And we don't save people. We don't do anything. God uses us, but God's timing is divine, and He's the only one that can do that, and it's in His time. So don't be discouraged because you've worked with somebody for 12 years and they haven't come to know the Lord. That's God's business. All we can do is plant seeds. Another piece of advice I would say is do prepare yourself. I have a brief testimony that if someone asks or if I have the opportunity, I present that testimony. I'll do a sales pitch for Empower Training. I've been through Empower Training, and that gives me tools that I can reach in my toolbox, use another construction term, and use as I'm faced with a situation. And then probably another thing is we're all sinners. We all sin every day. I wake up every morning and ask for forgiveness, and just know that everybody says, well, I'm not good enough to go approach that person, or I'm not good at this. I'm not good being a panelist, but let God use you to what He wants to use you for. And then probably my last would be do pray for opportunities that they're going to be put in front of you. And they will be put in front of you. And then a lot of us pray, well, please give me the right answers. But, God gives you those answers. And most of the time, people will respect, what you know and what you tell them. And most people don't hit you in the face when you come up and present the gospel. And then I keep saying last thing, but there are a lot of things I've learned over all the years. But I think it's very, very important to create that relationship with somebody, get their trust, build their confidence in you as a person, and show them how you live your life. Don't go up to them the first time you've met, hey, Clyde, go to church with me, or you're gonna, I believe in creating a relationship with somebody and then, waiting for that timing to have the opportunity to slowly present the message.
That's great. Thanks, Doug. Tim, what about you? What lesson or word of encouragement would you like to impart?
I guess one of the first things is simple is profound.
Yeah.
So you don't have to bring the Bible and convert somebody the first 5 minutes that you meet them. And what Doug was saying, it really starts about a relationship. You have to, in my mind, earn the trust of somebody before you share the gospel with them. There are so many people you hear that say, I'm a Christian, but yet everything they say and everything they do is completely non-Christian. So the minute I tell somebody I'm a Christian, I know I'm under the microscope. And that the things that I do and the things that I say and the way that I interact with people, I'm being watched. And that if I step off the line, then it's going to be, he's just one of those hypocritical Christians. But if I'm able to show that Christ is in me and that Christ is shining through me, then people are going to be drawn to me. And at that point, I'll have the opportunity to share with them. The second, for me, is, I said it earlier, it's a process. And I look for opportunities to bring a message to somebody by getting to know them, what they're interested in, and incorporating their interest into conversations about faith. I call them faith balloons. Instead of a trial balloon, I call it a faith balloon. So I'll float things out to people and see if they bite on any of that. And if they do, then it allows us to continue down the path of a conversation. The other thing is, I learned long ago, is it's not about me. I know I talked to one guy who's a really good friend of mine, a strong Christian, and he's all about the close of getting somebody, closing them on being a Christian. And he's a sales guy, so you can't blame him for that. He's, ABC, always be closing. But at the same time, for me, it's you have to walk with somebody at a pace that they're comfortable walking. And if you do that and you walk with them and provide them with opportunities to find out more about themselves and about Christ and about how those two things work together. I like to look at it as bringing Christ to somebody rather than bringing somebody to Christ. That way, when I bring Christ to them, it's their decision. And they can decide how and when they accept Christ. And I'm a support vehicle. So in some ways, I feel like a farmer rather than a construction guy. So I plant the seeds and I water. And then eventually there's an opportunity for a harvest. But all of those things happen in the right order at the right time based on the particular seasons. So that's one of the things that I've learned.
That's awesome. Maybe we can change the ABC to always be caring and building bridges of relationship so that people know that it's the concern and compassion of Christ that we're living our lives through. So that's good. Hannah, I'll ask you any words of wisdom that you'd like to share before we allow this company to park today?
I do. Very well said by the two gentlemen here. But I would like to add one more thing, which that is that I realize that I can't do it alone. I need a prayer so that I can stay on focus, stay strong, and stay on my faithful track as well. Because I do get bombarded with discouragement and challenges out there doing that. And one day, a couple of years ago, I was praying about my prospects on my list and came to one of my clients. I still have him. He has a difficulty of speaking. And I was just imagining, how is he going to follow the prayer of salvation when the time comes? And just a thought really banged my head. And I realized, Hannah, you can do it alone. And I have been, by then I had been thinking that I need support, because once my contact receives Jesus Christ, they need follow-up nurturing, especially for those who is homebound. And I was not able to manage all that, just physically, timely, impossible. So I've been praying for volunteers and helpers to come in and work with me with this ministry. And through Crew, that prayer is being granted right now. So Duane and Mark listened to my request and my need, and they have set me a possibility right now, and we're working on it. So, I'm sure you all go out there and try to be Christian just like I try. I'm not there yet, imperfect, still a long way to go. But please do not get discouraged, because if I can do it, you can do it too. So that's my message.
Lori, land the conversation for us and give us some words of wisdom.
All right. Definitely agree with everything my other colleagues have set up here in terms of, being authentic, letting people see the real you. I think that is a definite big magnet for drawing people when they see that, you're not hiding anything. Kind of like we were talking about in terms of, they see you saying one thing but doing something else. So making sure you're being authentic, being courageous, having the courage if God shows you to do something, to really do it and not backing down. I know there was a situation where my boss asked me to do something, and I was just like, okay, these are one of those draw the line in the sand type things, like I'm not crossing this line. It wasn't anything illegal or immoral, but it was something that violated some of my positions. And so I wasn't going to cross that line. The other thing I would say is be prayerful, and Hannah talked about that. You have to, be girded up in prayer and allow God to show you things to do. But the other thing that I would just add is to be excellent. I mean, a lot of times, as Christians, we think, okay, well, I'm a Christian, I'm going to go into my workplace and I'm going to evangelize everyone, but then you're not, doing your work. So that speaks more volumes to people that you can deliver on your work. I have to be a consummate professional. I have to be someone who knows about the work that I'm supposed to do and do it with a spirit of excellence, because I'm working as unto God and not unto man. And that a lot of times can be a draw for people when they see that you've closed some big deal or come up with some great idea. Then you can give the credit back to God for that. You can say, oh, I didn't come up with that idea. God gave me that idea. And it opens the door of opportunity. So that's the last nugget I would leave, is be excellent in everything that you do. And of course, be a person of integrity.
That's great. So today, you've heard some practical wisdom about how to be a minister in the marketplace from a farmer, a builder, a healthcare provider, and a taxi cab driver. So you can choose your method. Sorry, but something like that, right? Taxi cab driver at Coke. Although there was a common theme there, because one of your experiences was in the car too. So get them in the car, lock the door, rev the engine, and go. But there are different methodologies, different strategies, different opportunities. But here's the question: 2 questions for you. Are you prepared? Are you prepared to be used by God to be a minister wherever you go? Doug talked about the fact that there was a point that he said, I need to become better equipped in how to articulate my faith. And so he participated in actually a training experience that we sponsor called Empower Training. A chance for you to come through a series of workshops and learn how to clearly and concisely and compellingly articulate your faith. And Doug was a part of that, and that was a great experience for him personally in terms of preparation. And then talking at lunch, I know that Hannah is planning to participate in this next round, this next opportunity of training, and she's already invited a colleague to join her for that. So the first question is, are you prepared? The second question is, are you prayerful? Because if there's a resounding theme today up here, it's that if you pray and ask God to provide the opportunities, He will. And if you're willing and if you're watching, they'll be clear. And you can step right into those and use those, what do you call them, balloons? Those test balloons, trial balloons.
Faith balloons.
Faith balloons. As you build bridges, just loft them out there and see if they're responsive. And sometimes you don't have to aggressively go to other people. You just demonstrate compassion and they seem to come to you.